Hello TVR Universe, welcome! If you're new here, welcome to our masterclass in how to make basically a YouTube video, but all the things I will share with you in this video can be applied if you're making a short film, just a video in general, or if you're specifically making a video for YouTube. So sit around, grab a pen, grab your iPhone, grab your phone, your tablet, your pad, whatever you want to write your notes on, stick around, make yourself a drink, because tonight, this morning, whenever you watch this video, you want to get value in making a video. You're going to get value from this video. So, if this is your first time here, I'm Dave from TVR Creators, and I make weekly content on the best cameras for YouTube, camera gear, film gear, editing tutorials, and so much more. If that sounds interesting to you, subscribe now and hit the like button if you're getting value. If you're live here, awesome. If you're watching a replay, I hope you get some awesome value. So basically, let's get straight into it then. So you want to make a video, more specifically for YouTube or video in general. You want to think about the idea. So for most of us, the idea can pop into our heads, or if you're struggling for ideas, my power tip for you would be think about what you want to make the video about, because obviously you must have a rough idea. And I would type into YouTube what the topic is and see what phrases pop up, and YouTube will give you sort of a power 10, if you will, of what people are actually typing into YouTube, and just give you a rough idea perhaps how you could title that video. And also it might give you a few ideas. You might think, I don't know, you're thinking of making a gaming video, for example, about a certain game, and you type in and you then see sort of the game title, review, walkthrough, tips, guides, and then you think, I've got some ideas there. And then you pick the one you most like and you go with that. Now, I personally, this is what I do, so I hope this is helpful, is then I tend to have a trusty notebook. I've got it here. Let's just grab it. There it is. That's one of my notebooks. I've got a few of them floating about. And what I then tend to do is I fill out the title. It could change later on, but it's very important to have the title so you know roughly what the video is going to be about before you even crack on filming. It's very easy to go, right, I'm just going to film anything, and that's not very helpful. So then what I would then do is, once you've done the title, you can do scripts. Put it in the comments below if you find bullet points or scripts more helpful when producing a video or film. Obviously, with a film, it's a bit different. You have to have a script, because especially if you've got actors or if you're doing the film yourself, you need to know exactly what to say when you're editing, all that jazz. But if you're making a YouTube video or video in general, it could be more productive and more helpful and just easier to have bullet points. And that's exactly what I do. So I literally just jot down and think about how the video will be presented to the viewer. So you want a hook, so straight away, as soon as that person's clicked on that video or playing the video, they know they're in the right place. So the thumbnail isn't clickbait, so it's pulled them into the video they've searched for, or the video they thought, that looks interesting, I want to learn about that. And then from that, I would then say write down bullet points. So you've got your hook, so welcome everybody, this video is about AYZ type of thing. Then if you want to have an intro, you can. There's nothing wrong with that. I highly recommend, especially when you're thinking of the replay, I'd highly recommend to make the intro, if you have to have one, make it as short as possible, no longer than 3 or 4 seconds, because being truthfully honest, people just skip it, fast forward it, or they might leave the video altogether, and you don't want that. So keep them in. So a real powerful hook to grab the attention of the audience, bring them in. And you want to jot this down in your bullet points. I quite often would just write hook, and then I will know I'm roughly talking about whatever the video is about. And then sometimes I put an intro, sometimes I don't. It just sort of depends on the video. Obviously, if you're making a film, you might want opening credits, make some video specifically for the credits. That could be an interesting idea. And then from there, you want the content. Now, the bulk of the video is the content. And you could say this goes for filmmaking or video creation. So then write the bullet points. So say if you're doing a tutorial, or if you're talking about a particular topic, you might want bullet points. There might be a case of like 5 or 6 bullet points. You don't want the video to go on all day, for example. So it might be initially what the thing's about, some good points, some bad points, maybe some power tips, stuff like that. You might want to throw in a little jot to remind people to subscribe. So if you're getting value from this video at the moment, feel free to smash the subscribe button, hit the like button if you're getting real value. So, you know, that's something you might want to think about with your little bullet points. And then once you've got your bullet points, you think, right, I'm ready to go, I'm ready to film. You might want to think about, right, where's the location of the video or the film? So where are you going to film that video? So it's very important, especially if you're doing a film, there's much more effort that goes involved. You could be away from your house, in your house, wherever you live, flat, wherever. But if you're just doing a video, like a head video, like this is sort of could be one of my sort of weekly videos, you know, when you're just sort of talking at the camera. You know, it could be a set you've set up. You could have your own studio. If you haven't got the space for that, just find somewhere that's got lots of light. But we'll get into a bit more detail later in the video. But, you know, you want to sort of think of that. Now, for me, I knew that I wanted to do this. I mean, I've been making videos and short films. For those of you that don't know me, I've made short films and videos now for 15 plus years. So, you know, I like to think I sort of know what I'm talking about. So that's why I want to share this value with you. But what's really sort of interesting is about 2 years ago, like a lot of us, we spent much more time sitting around. So I decided, you know, I wanted a space to actually, you know, because I kept having to set up spaces around my home and stuff, and it just got annoying. So think about, right, I need a space for filming, especially if you're thinking, right, I'm going to do this regularly. So luckily I've got a spare room. You know, it could be a corner in your bedroom, it could be your basement, your garage, wherever. But I do highly recommend, if you're going to do this regularly, set up a space so you don't have to set up everything every time, because that could be very off-putting and get you out in the mood because you just can't be bothered to set it all up and all this sort of jazz. So I basically just set up my studio here, and as you can see, I've got lights and a backdrop, and I change the set depending on what I'm doing. If I'm live streaming, I've got my computer and stuff, got tripods, connect my camera. So just think about all these different things. So if you haven't already, I would highly recommend get yourself a tripod. It will be your best friend, especially if you're recording yourself. And if you haven't got anyone filming for you, or even if you have, I would highly recommend a tripod, because it just keeps the camera steady, keeps it going, and all that jazz. That's something I would highly recommend. Anyway, so you're about to film your video, you got your camera. Now, you don't have to use your camera. I will quite often, as you've probably seen, I use my phone to do my shorts. I make my videos with my camera, and off I go. And you know what? This is live TV. I'm going to put my phone on silent here on live TV, because that's just how I roll. Sorry, whoever's messaging. This is what I love about live TV. Watching the replay, don't worry about it. But anyway, so you've got your phone or your camera, and you're thinking, right, I'm on a tripod. There's a very good tripod over there, very good tripod. It costs about £40, which is about $45-50. I'm not really good at exchange rates, but you get the idea. I have links to a lot of the gear that I use in the description, so go and check it out. If you're getting value from this video, smash the like button. Anyway, so you've got your location set up, hopefully, even if it's just a backdrop. And just think, actually, you don't have to make it too complex. Just think the backdrop or whatever you're setting up only has to be the frame. The power tip for you only has to be the frame of whatever you're filming. So you don't have to have a massive space and the rest of it. If you're only doing head videos and you're sort of talking like here with the camera, you only have to have sort of, you know, sort of a frame set up that looks half interesting. You could have a shelf with objects that are to do with the content that you're talking about. I know it might sound a bit overwhelming, but just, you know, write some of these things down and just think, you know what, that's right. You know, you don't have to go overly complex. So anyway, so you've got your bullet points, and then what I would highly recommend is set up your camera, you know, stick it on there, and you want to think about audio first. So if you've got a good camera or phone, if you're filming indoors, they all have very good internal microphones, so you should be okay. But if you want to improve audio, because part of any film or video, especially if you're recording outside, you want to get a external microphone. So this is when you want to clip this on, screw it on, connect it to your audio jack. Make sure your camera has an audio jack before you buy it, like this one, and off you go. And I don't want to scratch the camera, so I'm just going to take that off, but you get the idea. And I would highly recommend, this is only a cheap one, this only costs about £20, but this is very good for recording outside, because it's got a windbreak. You don't get that annoying wind noise, which is really annoying. So just bear that in mind. but also it does massively improve your audio. So basically half of any video is audio, and some people may, you know, let you off if the video isn't good as it could be. Like, I'm only using a webcam to do this recording, for example, but I would highly recommend, if you want to you know, you want to get really good audio and you want it to be easy editing down the road, then I would highly recommend getting yourself some sort of external microphone, and you can use them on your phones as well. And a little power tip there I would share there is, if you're using a camera or phone and you're recording further away than a foot or so, I would highly recommend maybe down the road getting a second tripod where you can actually connect your microphone onto, you know, sort of over here. So say your camera's here, you could have the microphone here, sort of closer to you, or have it just out of shot, just sort of above like that, if you will, and the camera's sort of, if you can see, say the camera's like filming me, say, you might want a microphone just above, out of shot, which will pick up really good audio. So that's some things to bear in mind. You could get yourself a clip-on microphone. They're cheap enough. If you get a wireless one, they do cost a bit more, but some of you might prefer that, especially if you're, you know, I don't know, you're miles away, you know, filming in a field or something. That might be really handy. That's something to bear in mind when recording, especially if you're doing a film. So you might be doing a long shot, but I don't know, you want to talk. Personally, if you was going to do that, I would highly recommend just perhaps doing a voiceover and using a microphone like I'm using in a minute, which is the Zoom H1N dictaphone. Brilliant microphone. It's what I'm using now to record the audio in this video. Really good. So if you haven't got an external microphone, you might want to get something like a dictaphone where you could record really good audio or voiceover down the road, you know, down the line type of thing, and then you could edit it in post. I will admit it is much more fiddly and very hard to get straight on the video, but if you're just doing it like a voiceover, you know, it doesn't matter. You add a bit of music. Power tip, you can get some great free music off the YouTube audio library. There's loads of free stuff there you can use. I use it in my videos all the time. You probably see it later on. So all these things to bear in mind, hence why you write it down. You probably think, oh my god, there's too much to take in. Let's just take a breather a minute. You know what, just bear in mind that the more you make videos, the more you make short films, it just becomes second nature. You know, once you've made your first 30 to 50 videos, you know, you won't even think about it. You'll be setting up your camera, you'll be attaching your microphone, or you'll be using your phone, connect to a tripod, you'll be turning on your light, you'll be filming next to your window, you'll be thinking of all these things subconsciously. Just, best way I'll describe it actually is, hey Brad, welcome to the green room. Best way I'll describe it is, see it as, for those of you that drive or riding the bike, you know, to begin with, it's all scary. It's like, how much do I turn the wheel? When's the best time to change gears so the engine doesn't get all scared? How do I remember to check the mirror, indicate, change gear? And then once you be doing it for a few years, you know, it just becomes natural, doesn't it? Or walking, you know, when we were babies and toddlers, you know, it was probably really scary to think, oh, how do I get up? I've got to push my legs. And now we don't even think about it. So I would highly, you know, I would be honest with you, and I'm being honest, that video creation is no different. Once you've made your first 30 to 50 videos, or you made 3 or 4 films, you won't even think about it. You just do it. So just, I want you to bear that in mind. For those of you that are real beginners and you just like, I don't know, I don't know what I'm doing. Anyway, so you're doing your filming. What I'd highly recommend is filming each bullet point one by one. And I'll be honest, sometimes I get it straight out the bag, and I quite often, my first one will be my best, but I will quite often do 2 or 3. Sometimes if I'm a bit tired or for whatever reason I just can't get the words out, I will record each one sometimes 10 times. And if it takes 10 times, that's great. You know, it takes longer to edit. I personally have got used to just doing it 2 or 3 times, and I tend to use the best one, because otherwise it just takes hours to edit and we get to that later down the road. And you don't want it. You want this to be as enjoyable, but the workflow to be as speedy as possible, not in a rush way, but just so it doesn't feel like it's taken years. Because if it starts feeling like, it might do to begin with, but if it starts to feel like you're taking years over it, then it might get you out of the mood, you'll stop doing it, and this is your passion, or could be your passion. So you want it to be as easy as possible. Anyway, so record your bullet points, get straight down the road, record them. And then down the road, you might want to think about lighting is very important. So for those of you that are really new to video creation, film by a window, turn your light on, put different lights on. Like now I'm literally just using the house light just because the webcam gets a bit scared of a softbox light. If you're using your phone or camera, I would highly recommend a softbox light, which I've got up there. I think I've got a link to that in the description. Really good, about £40, £50 or dollars. Brilliant little gadget. You can get one or two depending on the size of your space. Believe it or not, one is fine. I've done loads of filming, and if you're wearing glasses, actually a power tip with lighting, if you are doing that, I would highly recommend just having it just to the side of you, have it sort of here, otherwise you'll get this really annoying glare, and it's very off-putting for you when you're editing and for the viewers and the people watching your film or video. So that's something to bear in mind. And even if you're using a window, I've actually still used a softbox light just to give that real nice film effect and just to fill in the parts of your face that just the window can't quite get to it, even on a sunny day. So these are all things to bear in mind. And again, like driving, just the analogy I'm using today, or gaming or whatever, it'll just become natural. You're thinking, right, light, audio, don't do I do and forget to turn the microphone on. I've done that loads of times, and I've gone halfway through. I've even done whole videos and then gone, I forgot to turn the microphone on. Wow. I have done that. So anyway, you've done your filming, and hopefully it's good. It will be good because you guys rock. Smash like if you're getting value. And then it comes to the editing. Now, I find with editing, if you want to support the brand, check out our merch at the bottom of the screen. Link is in the description. We've got some new merch. Check it out. Subscribe if you're just here. If you're joining us live, I just want to take a moment, jot down the notes for me to say, I'm Dave from TVR Creators, and I make weekly content on the best cameras for YouTube and film gear, editing tutorials of cameras, and so much more. If that sounds interesting to you, subscribe now and hit like if you're getting value. Oh yes, as I need a sweet drink. There isn't much of that left. Right, so you're getting to the editing. I would highly recommend, now if you're a phone creator, there's loads of great editing apps. You can check out the Adobe one. I think there's one that's just called Video Editor. There's Film Cut, there's sort of an iMovie, there's the ones on the Mac that come with it. And I would highly recommend, actually, trying out 2 or 3. This is something I didn't do, and I wish I did, because it would have saved lots of learning time. Just find 2 or 3, or even, buy one if you want, or get a couple of free ones. Try them out with your video, and just see which one... not necessarily the best, but the one that you just find it's whatever works best for you. So whatever you find easier, more user friendly, you just sort of get to grips with more quicker, go with that. That is the best editing software for you. At the moment, I use Magic, but I have for years used things like Adobe, which the professionals use, and they have all the cool effects and all that jazz. DaVinci Resolve is a great editing software if you're like an old school, and I know a lot of high creators still use their laptops or desktops to edit on, or Macs or whatever. So when you come to the editing, I've done whole tutorials on this. I won't go into massive detail here, but just bear in mind the same principles as your bullet points. So edit your hook, make it snappy as possible, cut the little bit at the beginning where you're like action, try and edit out as many as possible, and then put in your intro if you must. You might want to test it, but see what your community say. If you haven't got a community, don't worry about it. Just think, I like that intro, and then maybe down the road, just shorten it. And you'll see in your YouTube studio, you'll see where people have skipped it, where you'll get like a dip in views and stuff like that. So that's something to use all the time. And it's a free app, if you're not using it already as a creator. And then content. So pick each one, and it's quite an easy, simple. Again, it will become natural to you. So you've imported all your video, and just go through each bullet point. You use your notebook. So you've got your notebook. Look, there's your notebook. Woohoo! You've got your notebook, and you go, right, I've got my notebook. Yeah, I've got my notebook. And then you just watch each one, right, each clip. And you think, right, I like that one best. For me, it's usually the first or second one, and then I just tend to just keep ruining it or saying things wrong or whatever. That's just how I film. You could be a person where you do 5 or 6 and the last one's the best. You know what works best for you. again, it doesn't matter what works best for others, it's what works best for you. And this is what I want you to realise, that the best things is what's best for you. So you pick that one. And then what I would highly recommend, just to make it simpler for yourself, for beginner editing, I would cut the start, cut the end, cut out any ums and ahs if you can. If not, don't worry too much. And then just fold it over. So you just plug it over, and then little transition. I have got tutorials on this, so check them out on the channel. And then do that for each bullet point. It's a process. It could take you an hour, could take you 40 minutes. For those of you that are new to editing, it could take hours. But bear in mind, just like anything else, you'll get better and speedy. I can do a video now in sort of 40 minutes to an hour, depending on the video. If it's a bit more complex, or like the documentary I filmed a while ago, it can take a bit longer. Obviously, if you're filming a film, those of you that have filmed films will know it can take hours and hours and hours, but that's different. We're not directly about that. But something I would... a power tip actually I want to share with you guys. You're going to get value from this video. A power tip I would share with you when editing is watch other content. So if you're making a film, what's the genre of that film? If it's professional films on YouTube, there's loads of short films out there. Go and check them out. I've got some of my own. Check them out on my channel. If you're doing a content heads video, if you're doing a game walkthrough, all that sort of jazz, I would highly recommend watching and studying how you see them, and then perhaps trying to mimic it a little bit, but then also think, how can you make it better? So what I mean by that is, if you're just talking directly at the camera and I was editing this, I might occasionally pop in my head. You might think, what? So you get the video and you zoom in occasionally, and it just sort of wakes up the eye. So what I do as I'm editing, as you're watching the video, think as a viewer. So you're thinking, right, I tend to find, well, if I'm getting bored, people will probably be getting bored before I get bored, if that makes any sense. And then drop in a cut. So just zoom in your head a little bit. And then that will actually wake up the eye of the viewer, and this does work. You'll see it on your view duration on your YouTube studio, and it does work. You'll see it work, and you'll see little spikes of people watching for longer because you've cut. And as you get better at editing, you can do this better. I do things where I slowly zoom in, sort of just keeps the interest of the eye. And something I'd highly recommend, something called B-roll. So perhaps film things you're talking about, so you can just throw in the occasional, you're going to get value from this, that sort of thing. And it just sort of keeps the interest of the viewer, so you're thinking, okay, cool. And what I tend to do is actually, as I'm editing, I don't even think about it now, as I'm editing I think, right, in my head I'm getting bored, B-roll. Not just anything, but if you're talking about a certain thing, maybe film yourself doing it, or there's loads of sites like Camtasia and Canva and all the rest of it, where they actually give lots of free B-roll. So if you're talking about, I don't know, typing a keyboard, you might want to throw into B-roll of some keys being tapped by some fingers or whatever. And just, you know, it just breaks up the video, makes it a bit more interesting, all that sort of jazz. So think of all these sort of things. Anyway, and then you get to the end of the video, and if you can, this is something I'm really bad at, but you don't want to end it necessarily with, well, thank you for watching, because as soon as you do that, bam, everyone's gone. You'll see a big dip on your views, and people just go, right, okay, he's finished, the value's ending, I'm off to the next video. What you want to try and do is keep them on your channel. So what I try to do now is, oh, you know, if you enjoyed this video, I'm going to show a couple of end cards, go and check them out, and then perhaps end with the thank you very much. And then you can also add in what's known as cards. So throughout your video, you can drop in cards, but there's something you can do later once you post your video. But just, you can start to think of these things as you edit it, you know, and it's sort of really important. And then it's the dreaded render, or what I like to call the final edit. So I save it, I tend to resave it as final edit. I will then go through, you don't have to do this, but I go through color contrasting. I change the contrast of video just to sort of sharpen the video a little bit. I might add in a couple of little sound effects just to make it a bit more interesting, things that people won't even notice when they watch it. But I drop in little little sound effects of cameras to change, you know, depending on what's happening in the video. And you see it in films all the time. There'll be little subtle sound effects that just add to the atmosphere of the video or film, and it makes a massive difference. But the viewers don't even realise. But if you didn't have them, it makes it like 20% worse. It's really hard to explain, but it does help. But don't worry too much if that's too complex at this stage. Think about it down the road. And then once you're happy with it, and I would say don't be a perfectionist, just go with it, especially your first 50 videos, just go with it, press render, hope for the best. And then what I would recommend is just watch the rendered video, which is always the best way to watch it, because sometimes when you're watching on an editing program, it sometimes gets scared or stops, and just watch it, see if it flows. And if you're happy with it, you can always go back and re-edit and re-render if you want to, but I tend to go, you know what, I'm happy with that. And then you go onto YouTube, you post your video, type in a good description, so that helps YouTube identify what the video or film's about. If you've got affiliate links, put them in. If maybe a couple of links of videos that you might want people to watch. You can put up to 15 shorts in the description, but I only tend to put 3 or 4 in because I don't like to over complex that bit. Put in maybe links to social, that sort of jazz if you're a creator or filmmaker. And and then you make sure that if you have put in any free music, just put a link to that, or just the title of it is just part of the YouTube rules. They just like you to do that, just like a little thumbs up to the person that made it. And then you go through it. YouTube will check that you haven't done anything dodgy or copyright, all that jazz. Obviously you want to do a cool thumbnail. That's really cool. I have got whole videos on this. I won't go into much detail on that, but I would highly recommend, my power tip for thumbnails is make them as simple as basic but as effective as possible. So if you're talking about a camera, you want the camera to be the bulk of that. It's not the most focused picture, but you get the idea. So if you see that in a thumbnail, you're instantly going to go, this must be about a camera. If I'm like, yeah, I'm talking about cameras and the camera's over here and the sound's not great now, you might go, what's this about? Is this about Dave? Is this about camera? So you see the difference. It grabs people's attention. And then use something like Photoshop or editing program on your phone or however you best edit stuff. And I highly recommend just sharpen the picture, deepen the contrast. It just sort of pulls out the picture. And if you want to put I sometimes put lines around the object, it just grabs the attention of the eye. See the title and the thumbnail as like a partnership. They work together to pull in the viewer. People see the thumbnail, they see the title. I know, I don't know if Brad's still watching, I know that Brad prefers text, so some people will see the title, but for someone like myself, I prefer images. So the thumbnail for me is the thing that grabs my attention. So just bear in mind, so try and do a thumbnail that grabs people's attention as well as that. And if you do have to use words, and there's nothing wrong with using words, I use words in thumbnails. See it like a poster. Look at like a film poster. That's probably a bad example. Maybe look at other creators. But the best thumbnails that just look the most professional have no more than 4 or 5 words in. They're very like newspaper bulletins, aren't they? Very like, Canon M50 or Day Trip or Gaming Part 1. They're very sort of short, effective, with a big picture of whatever you're talking about, with just, cameras or whatever. And you get the idea, and just look them up on YouTube. And the ones that should grab your eye will be the colourful ones, the ones that look a bit different, that sort of jazz. So sort of just bear that all in mind. That's something I would highly recommend. And then once you've posted it, you can put in loads of tags up to sort of 500 characters, I think it is. And then what I would recommend for the tags, actually, this is a super power tip for those of you that got this far in the video. Thank you so much. Smash the like button if you got value, if you haven't already. I would highly recommend typing in on a second tab, if you do it on a computer or on the phone, and type in what you're talking about, and then see what phrases YouTube also gives you. And this does work for my best videos. And then copy and paste those phrases into the tags, because that's what people actually type in, and that's the type of thing that people will take notice of and all that jazz. And that is something that people have actually typed in, and your video or film will get identified, or people will find it, whatever the best word is. And that's just a real good way to sort of help YouTube work out what your video is about, and also the words you actually speak in your video, YouTube actually picks up and uses them almost like tags. So bear that in mind. So be careful what you say. But you know, all these little things help, and there is it's more than a rumor. A lot of people say that eventually they're going to get rid of tags and they're just going to use your description and what you say in the video and the performance of a video. And if people watch you know, a good percentage of video and perhaps watch another video, then YouTube will show more of your content. But if you've made a poor video, you know, the audience just don't relate to that video, then YouTube won't show your video as much. But then don't, you know, if your video doesn't do great straight away, perhaps really look at the title, but sometimes give it 48 hours, sometimes a few hours later, a few days later, even a few weeks later. I found, you know, a month later, one of my videos that I thought tanked, YouTube will suddenly show it to a new audience and they like it. So bear that in mind, all these things to bear in mind. I hope you've jotted some of this down. And just go with it, enjoy it, and repeat the process and learn from it. And in each video, think, how can I improve? You know, be honest with yourself, not in a horrible way when you're having nightmares about it and ripping yourself to pieces, but just think, okay, you know, I've made this first bit of content, or made this 10th bit of content. How perhaps could I make this better? You know, could I have made the microphone a bit closer to me as I'm talking about a shot? Could I improve the lighting by just changing the angle of the lighting, or get myself that softbox or ring light? Could I perhaps make my set look a bit more interesting? About a year ago, I added some backlights where before it was just black, and I find it now just looks a bit more interesting. I just mix the colours up just to make it a bit more appealing to the eye. You know, just all these little things you want to think about, and see content creation as a journey, and it's going through. And if you've got any questions, put them in the live chat. But I would highly recommend, and if you're watching on the replay, which I know most of you will be, feel free to ask any questions in the comments below. And also, how do you make your videos? I'd like to know if there's anything I've missed out, or anything you think, well, I do this, Dave, and I find this helps. Feel free, it's all interesting. We're all learning all the time. Put in the comments below. I'll just be really interested to see what you say, start a few conversations, and I hope that this masterclass has gave you value. Now, obviously, I'm going to be sharing some end cards at the end of this video that you'll see on the replay, and they will give you even more value to things that I think that you'll find interesting. One of them I will pick, and the other video YouTube will pick for me, for you, if that makes sense, knowing what sort of content that you enjoy. I just want to say thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed this masterclass. Have an absolutely great day, great weekend, great week, whenever that you're watching this content. Thank you for joining us here at the masterclass, and ultimately have fun in what you're doing and enjoy the content creation journey. For me, Dave, see you soon, and you guys rock!